During the 2020 election, Canton Township Clerk Michael Siegrist's office collected more than 57,000 ballots, safely, securely. But once the counting was done, the threats began, coming by the dozens.
Veiled threats. Yeah, I received lots of veiled threats. Nobody called me and said, I'm gonna, kill your family.
But those calls did happen for other clerks in Michigan. Former Farmington Hills clerk Tina Barton receiving a voicemail filled with explicit language threatening her family. Detroit clerk Janice Winfrey was sent photos of a dead body with a message to imagine that body as her daughter. And Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson was threatened by armed protesters outside her home and told NBC News the former president wanted her executed, a claim that Trump denies.
I would sit there late at night, a lot of times holding my son, worried, wondering, what would happen if these people actually made do with some of the stuff that they were saying. And that was really, it wears on you.
So much so that Siegrist bought a gun and began to wonder about who may be lurking at the end of the street.
I would walk my neighborhood and look at the vehicles on the street to see if there was anything out of awry, look at license plates, try to get an idea if anybody was stalking my house, was following me to and from work.
Eventually, Siegrist worked to fortify his office, bringing in federal agencies to see just how safe things actually were. They looked at everything: the placement of cameras, door locks, anti-ramming devices, and panic buttons. They installed bulletproof glass and even changed where the trash cans had been placed in case someone left a bomb to kill those counting votes. But he still worries about polling locations like schools or churches where volunteers are vulnerable to violence. Siegrist also winning a national award for the way they now run their elections, basing their process off FEMA disaster plans, forced to treat Election Day as a day with the potential to turn deadly. After a recent conference in Houston, Texas, it's become a model used nationwide.
That's nuts. That's insane. Because armed protesters show up, and I don't know if it's somebody who really likes the Second Amendment or if it's somebody who decides I stole the election and wants to put a bullet in my head.
And still, some clerks like Madison Heights clerk Cheryl Rotman are worried even after the worst threats of 2020. There may be more to come.
I'm worrying about it ramping up again. It sort of died down, and now it's starting to get ramped up again. I haven't received anything recently, so hopefully it'll maintain that way, but I'm not optimistic.
So you've got DOJ coming in, you've got DHS coming in, you've got CISA coming in, right? That's all taxpayer money. Is the state doing enough to help clerks like you protect their offices, protect their employees, and then in the end protect me and my vote?
We have a joint group, Republicans and Democrats, from all over Michigan, rural clerks, urban clerks, suburban clerks, where we all say, okay, we do the work. We see the system. We know it. We want to see this change, and this change. And we can't get a bill. Or we can't get a bill that isn't tied to something so politically toxic because somebody needs to score red meat for their base. Yeah, that's a problem. We're not sending adults to Lansing to pass laws.
In the year and a half since the 2020 elections, after threats of violence and death, the state of Michigan still hasn't set aside any money to specifically protect election workers, many of whom are volunteers at their schools, fire stations, and churches. So we went to the top, Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, to ask why.
The state legislature has allocated no funding for securing and protecting the security of our election workers. And it's, to me, very frustrating to hear people talk about wanting elections to be secure, wanting to protect the integrity of our elections, but then they're not willing to put money behind those words.
Benson says negotiations with lawmakers are ongoing. They just aren't moving quickly.
Where are talks between your office, you, and lawmakers to get money to help clerks and election workers?
The talks ebb and flow. They're oftentimes very friendly and productive. What we're not seeing is results, and that's really what I and many clerks are kind of getting impatient about.
How much money do you think you would need?
We've estimated it to be about $100 million.
What the state is actually getting is just $8 million in federal dollars to be doled out to 1,600 clerks across the state. The $100 million would be used to upgrade election equipment and train poll workers, but how much of the money would be used is up to individual clerks. But in the end, it leaves Michigan's clerks out to dry and potentially in danger. A difficult realization even for those like Siegrist.
Where there's a will, there's a way. I'm an optimist. There's absolutely nothing I won't tackle. But everything's political now.